it.
Yeah, no,
I know that thing. I think you're...
He said to me, he said, no, you get an American singer that you spend very good with money. I never even heard of that, until then, really. So, I mean, it's just little things like that. I'll run through it, so I'll have a read of it, actually. But have a bit of time.
Hey, you were in the studio last night.
Yeah. I'm just mixing the track, and we got into it, kind of didn't get out till past 3. It's one of the new ones off the album, yeah. I was mixing an extended mix of it, just having a mess around. Everyone listens to it. Yeah, it's good fun. And I got my own studio, so it's this kind of specialist thing. You normally farm them out to these very specialised people, and they wreck them and send them back. So I decided to try it myself, so I've been working on it.
But it's a very good record. It's a really good record.
Do you like it?
Okay, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, good, really good. You know?
I like it, I have a lot of trouble sort of saying I think it's great, but just because I hear myself say that. I wish I was just a fan or when I could genuinely like it, but without seeming wildly immodest. I do like it. I had a good time doing it, some good stuff on there, I think. Like I said the other day, I can't be objective yet. But I'm going to take it a couple of months. I can listen to McCartney one. I can just listen to that. Yeah, I like that. It's growing on me.
Very early,
you know what I mean? The objectivity.
No,
it's true that.
I'm sure. I mean, I haven't read my book. I mean, I have, but I can't read.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's why. Let me usually go down. It's a touchy subject, isn't it? And you've done a thing. There it is. It's your presentation. You meant to get every bit of it right.
So, I mean, how do you react to criticism? In fact, do you take?
I don't really know. Now I'm being very flash and very nonchalant, saying I don't care. But I haven't seen too many reviews. And when I see bad reviews, it'll hurt me. But I am giving myself a bit easier time in life these days. I've gone through so much criticism, and not just from critics, from people like John, over so many things, that like a fool, I can actually just stood there and sort of said, yeah, well, you must be right, I've done this, that wasn't too nice and stuff. I'm beginning to see it a bit differently now. I'm beginning to see a lot of what they say is their problem, not mine, a lot of the time. And in John's thing, when as you obviously know, he was going through a lot of pain when he said a lot of that stuff, and he felt that we were being kind of vindictive against him and Yoko. In actual fact, I just answered a question on the American TV thing. I think we were quite good, looking back on it, and knowing people in life. Many people were just down tools with a situation like that. You just said, look man, she's not sitting on our amps while we're making a film. I mean, that wouldn't be unheard of. I mean, Sean Penn. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That most people would just say, we're not having this person here. Don't care how much you love her. Well, we were actually quite supportive. Not supportive enough. It would have been nice to be really supportive, because then we could look back and say, weren't we really terrific? But looking back on it, I think we were okay. We were never really that mean to you. I think a lot of the time, John suspected meanness where it wasn't really there.
Oh, he's presumably very paranoid.
I think so. I mean, he warned me off Yoko once. Look, this was my chick, just because he knew my reputation. I mean, we knew each other rather well. And I felt, I just kind of said, yeah, no problem. But I mean, I sort of did feel he ought to have known I wouldn't. I mean, he was going through, I'm just a jealous guy, he was a paranoid guy. And he was into drugs, heavy.
Yeah, which makes you paranoid.
He was into heroin. And
yes, I know.
See, which I haven't realised till just now. It's all starting to sort of click a bit in my brain. I was just figuring, there's John, my buddy, and he's turning on me because he perceives that I'm the McCartney bandwagon. He once said to me, they're all on the McCartney bandwagon. He was in interviews. And to me, I was just releasing a record. Okay, so you can call it McCartney bandwagon, but it's no harm. It's no more than anybody else does when they put out a record. And yet things like that were hurting him. And looking back on it now, I just think it's a bit sad, really.
Because I saw that thing in the Observer last week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that starts to show some of the pain he was going through. I think, hell, anyway, look, he was a great guy, great sense of humour. I mean, if he did it, I'd do it all again. I'd go through it all again and have him slag me off all again. just because it was so great. Those are all the down moments. But there was much more pleasure than has really come out. Every article now, I'm always saying, I'm sorry if there's something out of John or something. Really, I'm quite happy. I mean, I had a wonderful time with one of the world's most talented people. That's like a plus. I say, we had all these crazinesses. But for instance, if someone took one of your wedding photos, if you're married, are you married? Yeah. Someone took your wedding photo and put a funeral on it. You tend to feel a little bit sorry for the guy. You think, wait a minute, I mean, I'll tell you what, if I'd ever done that to his thing, it would have just hit the roof. But I kind of just sat through it all and was mild-mannered Clark Kent.
This must be hurting you, presumably, though.
Not half, yeah.
But I mean, when did you actually get a perspective on it?
I still haven't. It's still inside me. I was just talking to someone the other day. I said, John was lucky he got all his hurt out, got all his pain out, he got all his feelings out. I'm not really that kind of person. I'm a different sort of personality, so there's still a lot inside me that sort of is still trying to work it out. And that's why, it's kind of good to see that wedding funeral bit, because I started thinking, wait, this is someone who's going over the top. This isn't just your average jibe. This is like paranoid. This is paranoia manifesting itself. And so my feeling is just like it sort of was at the time, which is like, he's my buddy. I don't really want to do anything to hurt him, or his memory, or anything. I don't want to hurt Yoko. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I understand what went down. Or it doesn't necessarily. I mean, I went at Yoko's request. I went to New York recently. Did you say she?
No.
I went to New York. She said she wanted to see me, and I said I was going through New York and stuff. And, so I kind of stopped off and rang her. She said she couldn't see me that day. I was in New York. I was like 400 yards away from her. And I said, well, I mean, I'll pop over any time today, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whenever you can squeeze me in. She said, it's going to be very difficult. I said, well, okay, I understand. What is the reason, by the way? She said, I was up all night with Sean. I said, well, I understand that. I got 4 kids, I understand that. It's terrible and stuff, but you're bound to have a minute today, sometime. I said, I'm leaving soon. Can't really hang around. And she asked me to come. Flown in specially.
Oh, wait, you've gone there specially?
Yeah,
to see her?
Yeah, to see her. She didn't see me. So I kind of a little bit humiliated, but I said, okay, 9:30 tomorrow morning then. Let's make an appointment. She rang up about 9 o'clock and said, could you make it tomorrow morning?
But I mean, completely off the record, I mean, she's still on something, isn't she? I was told she's still on methadone, isn't she?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean,
I honestly don't know, man. I honestly don't know. So that's the kind of thing, what I'm saying is like, I'm beginning to think it wasn't all my fault. I'm beginning to let myself off a lot.
Do you have a lot of guilt? Did you take them?
Yeah, well, when some of the world's greatest entertainer calls you Engelbert Humperdinck, you get feelings of something. And I always felt guilty. Always felt guilty. But looking back on it, I keep thinking, okay, let's try and analyze it. Now, John was hurt. What was he hurt by? What was the single biggest thing that we can find in all our research that hurt John? The biggest thing I can find is that I told the world the Beatles were finished. I don't think that's so hurtful. I know he said, it was like for publicity for my album. But I don't even think that's hurtful. Big deal.
No,
4 months after the group.
Traditionally, people do these things at the appropriate point anyway. You might as well do that.
But 4 months after the group's broken up, and we've waited for 4 months to see if we could get back together again, I then announced. I'll tell you what was unfortunate, the method of announcing it all. Which again, there's a story behind that. Which was that I said to the guy at the office, happened to be Peter Brown of book fame. I said, I've got an album coming out, McCartney. I said, I don't really want to see too much press. Can you do me some question and answer things? So he sent all those questions over. I answered them all. We had them printed up and put in the press copies of the album. But I think the perception of that when it arrived on the journalist's desk was, oh, this is McCartney, really from... It wasn't a number, see. I see it now and I kind of shudder. I think, oh, bloody hell. I could see it quite clearly. At the time, it was me trying to answer some questions that were being asked. And I decided to not fudge that question. And I say, looking back on it, I don't think, I mean, if that's the most hurtful thing I did, I haven't really heard much else beyond that. We didn't accept Yoko totally, but like I say, you know, how many groups do you know these days? I mean, it's a joke. It's like Spinal Tap.
Of course.
I mean, it's the Spinal Tap joke.
Actually, it's something I always thought, you know, I always have this assumption when I go and interview groups, say you interview everyone, you think everyone knows what's going on. And you talk, but you talk to individual members and you find no one knows what's going on, they don't communicate at all, you know, and then you start seeing it on stage, you know, like, you know, you suddenly see how separate they are on stage.
Daltrey and Townsend.
You know, or the Clash was the same, you know.
Daltrey and Townsend on Live Aid. Pete started copying Roger's movements because he knows exactly what Roger's going to do. And so in the end, Roger started doing Pete's movements. They missed each other up, so it was terrible, actually. But anyway, generally speaking, you know, what I'm saying is, I love John. I was his best mate for a long time. Then the group started to break up. It was very sad. I got the kind of rap as being the guy who wrote the group up.
Well,
that's not actually true.
But you had to actually do it anyway to get out of that.
No, it wasn't actually true.
Legally,
yeah, legally I had to. But
he'd already said
he was broken actually months before, yeah. And so I got into this legal thing. And, you know, looking back on it, I say I got a lot of guilt off that. But you tell me what you would have done if the entire earnings that you'd earned, and I mean, something like the Beatles, entire earnings is a big figure. This is everything we'd ever done through all the American tours, all the record success, everything we'd ever done up to somewhere around about Hey Jude. And that was about to disappear. It was about to go into someone's pocket. And the guy I'm talking about, it's Klein, and he had $5 million the first year. He took $5 million the first year he managed the Beatles. So I smelled a rat. I thought, well, $5 million one year, how long is it going to take him to get rid of it all? So I started to resist, and I was given a lot of pressure. They said, oh, you're always stalling. This is when they came to sign Klein's contract. You probably heard of this.
But they thought it was part of you being involved with Linda as well, didn't they? That you wanted to get the Eastmans involved. Yeah.
They said, who are we going to get? We looked at Lord Beeching. Looked at all these people. John interviewed Lord Beeching because he'd done the railways so great. I mean, you're kidding. But we wanted who we called Mr. X. We knew we needed someone after Brian. And so we had a meeting in Iceland, so we really needed Mr. X. And if we can get someone really great, it'd be fabulous. So then the Beeching thing came along, and then I just met my in-laws, Lee Eastman, and I was pretty impressed. And he's a pretty impressive guy. And it would have been great. But obviously everyone worried that because it was my father-in-law, I'd be the one who'd look after. I think there must obviously be some element of that. So that worried him. And quite naturally they just said, no, we can't have him. So in the end it turned out to be Klein. And I said to people, well, I want out of this. And they said, you can't. I said, I want to sue this guy, Klein. And they said, you can't. He's not a party to any of the agreements. So it became clear I had to sue the Beatles. So obviously I became the baddie. I put on a black hat. But afterwards, you see, the thing is, it's like when you get in a sensation in a newspaper and the retraction is always a week later on the back sports page, at the bottom of the sports page. The truth of that whole thing is that, yes, I did take the Beatles to the High Court, which is like a highly traumatic period for me. Imagine, you know, having to front that one out. You know, imagine, seriously, having to front that one out.
How did you feel through
all crazy, just insane, so insecure. Half of the reason I grew the beard, although the other reason was split left.
Yeah, but I know people actually, when they put hair on their face, often to hide.
It's often a cover-up, yeah. And I had this big beard, so went to the High Court and everything. I managed to save that, and the judge said something about the prattle of a second-class salesman, talking about Klein. They put in evidence this big, expecting us not to look at it. Because their side, I don't think looked at what they put in. But because my whole life was on the line at that point. I felt this was the fire, this was the furnace, you know. Finally it arrived. And we used to get shakes in our voices. Neil asked, well, you talk to Neil about some of the meat things. We got the Nixon shakes. It was something we never ever had before. Remember Neil quite clearly trying to, the aforementioned parties, as if that's going to help anyway. Shut them up. It's on earth, boys. But yeah, so we went through a lot of all those problems. But the nice thing was, to say, afterwards, the little retraction on the sports page was that each one of them in turn, just very, very quietly, very briefly said, "Oh, thanks for that. Save all the money on it." That was about all I ever heard about it. I've never, to this day, no one's ever gone into depth.
No, that's never actually been said, but perhaps it has been that you were right. You know, in the end, you were right.
So that's what I mean, you know. Well, it was actually said, but again, see, John turned it round, like this thing in the Observer. He said, "But you're always right, aren't you?" See, there was always this thing. So, I mean, it was crazy for me, because I come from Liverpool, and I thought the idea was to try and get it right, you know. And it was quite surprising to find that if you did get it right, people could then turn that one around and say, "But you're always right, aren't you, smarmy?" Or whatever, you know. You go, oh, and I'm like intelligent enough to be able to see that angle the minute they go, "Oh, shit, I hadn't thought of that." It's like moving the goalposts. It's that one, you know, it's like, oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, it occurred quite a few times, you know, because I'm pretty, they kind of, you know, ruthless, ambitious, all that stuff. No more than anyone now trying to break into showbiz. But I'm pretty, can be pretty forceful. If we've got to make a record, I'll actually sit down and write songs.
See, I was actually,
which can be interpreted as being overpowering and forceful. Go ahead.
I was told, I mean, that in fact, and I'd heard this over the 70s, really, that you were kind of the driving force in the Beatles. You know that
sometimes,
you know,
sometimes I could be.
That John would be more interested if you hadn't been around to keep him at it. Say in the early days.
Yeah, sometimes. I remember doing Let It Be. We sat in Apple around the table, and I come up with this idea, you know, that we should. I often had an idea. Could be anyone who had the idea, but it happened to be me that Let It Be. I said, "It'd be good, you know, if we kind of got in a film." I remember John said, "Why? What for?" I kind of explained a bit more. He said, "Oh, I get it. You want a job?" "Yeah, that's it." And it was like, "Oh, he wants a job." And it was like, it seemed strange to me that they didn't, but they all seemed quite happy just sort of sitting out in St. George's Hill, you know, just languishing. I always wanted to make the group great and even greater. And when we made Let It Be and it was a bit crummy, I insisted that we made Abbey Road. Because I knew what we were capable of, and I didn't think we pulled it off in that Let It Be. And then with the Phil Spector remix, we kind of walked away from that LP. We didn't really want to know. In fact, the best version of it was before anyone got hold of it. The Glyn Johns early mixes were great, but they were very bare, very Spartan album. But it's great. Now it'd be one of the hippest albums going if they brought it. They'd probably on bootlegs.
Yeah, sure.
But before it got its overdubs, before it had all its raw edges off it, that was like one of the best Beatle albums, because it was a bit kind of avant-garde, really, because it was just purely as we recorded it down there in Apple or on the roof. It was that, with a good sound on it from Glyn Johns, just a couple of mics over the drums, and that. Very basic, because he's a basic project. And I loved it. But, no, but what was it talking about on the Let It Be thing? On those things, often, yeah.
It's also about the
So I became known as being overpowering. So it was Abbey Road we were doing, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, because I got some grief on that. I took 3 days to do that. Yeah. Now you know how long Trevor Horn takes to do a mix for Frankie. Sure. You know, so that's the strange thing. I feel vindicated as time goes on. I'm beginning to understand what I was doing, and that it was half of it was as innocent as I thought it was. I didn't think we got Maxwell's Silver Hammer right, so I kept pushing to get it right. And they said, "Man, we spent 2 days on this song already." Which, you know, now, 2 days it takes to switch on the Fairlight.
Yeah,
it does, man. I had a group the other day, spent 2 days trying to find the on switch. Serious, you know. But that's what we're into these days, you know. So, let's say, you know, on one of the sessions, it was around about Maxwell Silver Hammer time. This did used to, I'm sure it did piss people off, and much as I tried to not piss people off, obviously, if you are, I don't know, driving force, overbearing, whatever you want to call it, if you are on the ball, a perfectionist, whatever, it can annoy some people. Because some people can just say, "Oh, come on, man, hang out, come and just have go and have a drink, go have a smoke or something, let's just lie in." Which, you know, I did plenty of anyway. I mean, it wasn't as if I was just a relentless crazy. I mean, I did plenty of the other. It just seemed to me when we had a session booked, it was a cool idea to turn up. You know, but that wasn't always the case. Like Sergeant Pepper, George turned up for his number, and a couple of other sessions, but not very much else.
Because George was supposed to have resented you for always getting on his back.
He did resent it. But you see, for instance, two examples. One, on Abbey Road, I was beginning to get too producery for everyone. George Martin was the actual producer, and I was beginning to sort of be too definite. And George and Ringo turned around and said, "Oh, look, piss off. We're fed up. Just back off. We're fine. We're grown-ups, and we can do it without you, fine." So I kind of go, oh, one of those people like me who don't realise when they're being overbearing. It can be it can come as a great surprise to actually be told you are overbearing, you know. So I completely clammed up and sort of backed off and sort of went, right, okay, I'm burned. Back off. They're right. I'm a turd. Sit here, fine. Okay, guys. So a day or so went by, 2 days, and the session started to flag a bit. Ringo eventually turned and said, "Come on, produce. Come on." And so it was like, you couldn't have it both ways, you know. You either had to have me doing what I did, which, let's face it, you know, I hadn't done too bad, or I was going to back off and become paranoid myself, which is what happened. There's a lot of Wings was to do with that I'd been told I was so sort of overbearing, that for instance, if the guitarists in Wings wanted to play a solo a certain way, I wouldn't dare tell them not, that it wasn't a good idea. And the other example that really pissed George off, but I do think I was right, was when we were making Hey Jude, but you're always right, you know, I hear it now, you know, it's still got the same. Anyway, was we were making Hey Jude, and to me, it had to have a sparse opening. Hey Jude, 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 Jude. Just have this intimate opening, and it was going to build, and a kitchen sink, and eventually get to Nirvana, or near Nirvana. Anyway, so I start off, Hey Jude, and George went, don't make it bad, take a sad song, and make it better, and George was answering every line through the whole song, and I just said, no, I really don't want that. It's my songs. We always had, the rule was whoever's song it was got to say how the arrangement was. So of course, you know, that pissed him off. And I'm sure I pissed Ringo off when he couldn't quite get the drums to USSR, and I sort of sat in. I'm actually still very aware of that. It's a very weird thing to know you can do a thing that someone else is having trouble with, because one, you make it very simple, but just going down and doing it and just bluffing right through it and thinking, the hell, at least I'm helping. But obviously the paranoia comes in is, but I'm going to show him up. And I was very sensitive to that. I still am. I remember sort of hours sitting around thinking, should I say anything? And in the end, it always came to, you should have said something. So, you know, it's very hard to balance that. So in the end, like I say, sometimes I was overbearing, sometimes they liked it, so it worked out.
Do you have much to do with them now, George?
I'm just starting to get back with them, really. It's all business troubles. It's all business troubles.
Seems to be. I mean, you know,
that's what spoils the whole thing for us. If we don't talk about Apple, we get on like a house on fire. The minute anyone mentions Apple, something comes up, and they'll sort of say, well, you wouldn't show us your records to the accounts or something. And I'll sort of say, but I did. Your man is now at this moment in my office. And I say, oh, like hell he is. And we have major misunderstandings over things like that. But I do bend over backwards to sort of try and not be sort of crazy with that stuff. But so I've just started to see them again. And I had a great day the other day with George. He came down to visit me. And we really had, for the first time in billions of years, been a nice time. Because George was my original mate in the Beatles.
Well, more than...
I knew George
yeah.
before. Well, he lived near me, so he lived in Upton Green.
Yeah.
Little close kind of thing. And I lived in Ardwick Road, and it was like half a mile away. So we were mates, took the same bus to the same school, the 500, which was the Express. So we took the same bus, so we often would sit together. And then we got a guitar about the same time. And we went through the chord books, the same Bert Weedon guitar technique chord books, in which we learned D and A together and E. And we were quite big buddies then. So that was something I'd missed really through all these years. You know, we got all professional and Beatles and everything. You lose that, obviously. And he just came down the other day and we didn't talk anything about Apple. And we didn't pick it. Somebody said, so I told somebody else this the other day. that I'd seen him. And they said, did you play together? He was American. I said, no, didn't touch an instrument, didn't do anything. It was just back as mates, like on the bus, because he's very into trees and planting and horticulture, as I am more now. So we talked about planting trees. What's that plant? That's nice. And it was really great to actually sort of relate as two people and try and get all that crap out the window and put it to one side for once. There's such a weight you feel that stuff.